This is Perp, back with another video, and I just got done watching Past Lives. This is a brand new movie coming out of A24. It came out about a month ago, but I finally got around to watching it. Finally dropped at a theater that I can go watch it at. And I gotta say, after watching this movie, this is definitely one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of the year so far. Like I said, we're still in the middle of the year. Things could kind of shift, but there's just something about this movie personally that I like. You know, as far as how they handle the romance, because this is like a romantic drama type of movie. That might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I can always find something within some type of genre as long as it's done right. You know, a lot of people really like comic book movies, not so much for most people, but I always am going to be like a horror fan, but I also can enjoy a good romance or a romantic comedy when it's done right, aka no hard feelings. Movies like that, like bringing that kind of human story back, where it doesn't kind of feel like it's this generically put together, like, I don't know, there's a lot of trash romance movies, but this really does something interesting and different that you don't normally get with romance movies nowadays, because everything is kind of oversaturated and kind of diluted. There's not that much, but I will also say on the flip side, it depends on where you're looking. And if you're looking for a dope romance movie, this will be pretty much up your alley. And just, it's a good movie overall, so you don't even have to think of it as that, but it is a love story at its core, and it's following these two characters, Hae Sung and Nae Young. Nae Young, they're both childhood friends, and that's where it kind of starts off at. And I think this has a really interesting beginning, where it starts off with this like conversation, and it seems like somebody's narrating while watching this kind of conversation at like a bar, and then we flip into like 24 years ago or something like that. Yeah, like 24 years later, them as kids, pretty much teens at the time, like 12 years old, and they're just childhood friends. And that's what I really like about this movie, is the relatability in all the different scenarios and all the times that we kind of jump around in time, and even just the way that you're able to connect with people nowadays to compare to how you were able to see the early stages of that in the 2010s and whatnot, with just video calling and stuff. So yeah, it's about these two characters like kind of always refinding themselves or reconnecting with one another, also dealing with the cultural differences, like this movie starting off in Korea, and you're kind of getting their upbringings and stuff like that, and a lot of what Nae Young is kind of going through as far as her identity, and who she wants to be, and what she inspires to be, why she wants to go to the States. She even goes as far as to kind of just get rid of her name and switch her name to Nora, so you can kind of look at her as Nae Young or Nora, but it's definitely two kind of different people. But she kind of more so embraces the Nora side of her, but definitely doesn't forget where she comes from at the same time. While on the other side of things, you got Hae Sung. He pretty much is still in Korea, lives with his parents, which is interesting because nowadays in America, more people live with their parents too, so it's interesting. But you just kind of see the disconnect, over time, even when they reconnect when they're in like their 20s, and they kind of have their falling out, then re-find themselves, you know, 7 years later. She's married and he's kind of just going through his breakup and whatnot, and they're still able to kind of find each other. And another character that is interesting in here is Nora's husband, Arthur, and how Arthur, was an interesting character because usually some people wouldn't let their wife or somebody's husband go just, have a conversation with another person that they possibly had just any type of feelings for. It's very rare to kind of see people actually being accepted of that. That doesn't normally happen nowadays. But it's interesting how they handle that whole scenario in this movie where you're thinking oh, she might run off and just end up leaving her husband for this guy that she's known obviously her whole life, and that's her kind of connection back to where she comes from. And yeah, that Arthur's a dope character, that's all I'll say. And it's interesting how they handle his character, especially when they get towards the end where you have a scene between those three characters, and just how Arthur doesn't really hold back how he feels about the whole situation. He doesn't get angry about it or anything. He's just if this is what you want to do, that's okay. It seemed like at first that he definitely seemed jealous, not jealous but concerned. But then when you get to the ending, you're okay, nah, he knew that this was going to be also kind of a heartbreaking moment for her as they kind of part ways. And just the whole aspect of in a past life these two characters could have possibly been together, whatnot, talking about everything everywhere all at once, where that dealt with a lot of different scenarios in multiverses. We could see that physically, where this is kind of questioning the possibilities of them kind of crossing paths in different ways. That whole conversation could go left in a completely different alternate universe, which is so fascinating to kind of think about. And what makes this movie really dope as just watching it through that lens, that human story, and it doesn't really feel generic in any ways. It feels very organic. I like the conversations that all these different characters have. I like how clean this movie looks. The cinematography is very, very clean, especially this scene that you see in the thumbnail with the merry-go-round in the background. That was a really clean scene, and just very bright colors, and it's just a very simple movie. It's a very simple movie. It doesn't try to do anything complex, and it's very paced. It's paced very well. This is a very easy watch. It doesn't try to, make you overthink about a scenario. It just gives you a story that anybody can really relate to, or is going to end up going through some of these scenarios. Maybe not so much what ends up happening during the third act, but at its core, it's a love story. Also, just kind of reconnecting with people from your past. And yeah, just a really good feel-good movie. At times it's kind of damn, it's a little heartbreaking. I think it had just a overall solid message about it. Anyways, if you have seen this movie, let me know your thoughts of it in the comments below. But I would recommend checking this out. If you can check this out in your theaters that's playing near you, or if you want to just wait till VOD or streaming, you could do that. But until next time, I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.